So this is going to be my first ever Marvel Legends series review, and today we're taking a look at Deadpool, part of their Deadpool movies legacy collection. I wasn't expecting this to arrive this soon, but it also makes sense knowing that the third Deadpool movie is right around the corner, seeing as this is essentially an upgraded reissue of a figure that was released a couple of years back. That makes this more like a precursor to a batch of figures that will be more accurate to the upcoming film. As far as I'm aware, a lot of people sang praises to that old release. Some people held off knowing that it was packed in with a figure of a character that didn't exactly have the charm necessary to want to get it in action figure form. But enough about that, and let's examine the box. First off, it's a window box, so that's always a plus. I noticed that this has been the trend with their movie figures, and I would prefer if it stayed this way. And I wouldn't mind if they rolled back to this kind of packaging with their other releases, like their comic book releases and whatnot. Here at the side, here at the side, it's Deadpool logo, Marvel Legends series, Deadpool being funny, and at the back, a basic movie poster of, I believe, from the first film. While I have seen both movies, I can't recall at the top of my head to which movie this is more accurate to, but I would guess that this is from the first movie for the most part, since it has the brighter dull red. We've got the mandatory paper insert slide from Hasbro. We gotta say right off the bat, it has very strong appeal for a movie Deadpool figure. Before we move on to the rest of the aesthetics of this figure, let me just point out that they finally fixed the fatal flaw of the old release, and that is the guns are finally removable. You can remove them from the holsters now, so it's a set of guns and holsters that are functional rather than just decorative. So kudos to them for doing that. They could have done that sooner on the first release. From what I can tell, this figure barely has any paint. However, some of the blacks are painted over the red molded plastic, so that's actually nice. Also, the line work around the shin guards and the knee pads. We also have some painted details here on the belt buckles and on the pouches. Not exactly the best paintwork, but it's decent enough given how small this piece right here in the middle is. We also have some paint here on the buckle of the shoulder strap, or the crossbody strap. Here at the back, we don't really see any of those extra paint apps here at the back, but that's fine because the figure has a lot of sculpted details and texturing. But I gotta say, even though it's just mostly molded plastic pieces, it gets the job done, because they're able to capture the kind of red that Deadpool wears in the first movie. He's also loaded with a lot of straps here on the thighs, and another one here on his left calf to account for the sheath for the dagger. And some of the sculpted details here on his pecs are painted silver. I think these are clips. To fix his suit or something. I don't know. Then we have more line work here on his arms, and then the holsters, the sheath at the back for the swords, for the katanas, are done pretty well. So overall, an aesthetically pleasing figure. For accessories, we have his default open relaxed hands. Then we've got his gun holding hands and the pistols that came inside the holsters. Then we've got some hands to hold the dagger and the sword. By the way, his gun holding hands have vertical hinges, so that's perfect. While his melee weapon holding hands have horizontal hinges. Just thought you should know. Let's look at his katanas. His katanas do have a nice silver finish. The hilts could have benefited from some paint, but it's got a good enough sculpted detailing to make it look good, I guess. He's gonna hold it anyway, and all those details are gonna be hidden by his hands holding them. But that would have added to the allure of the figure, especially if you put those katanas inside the sheaths. And for all we know, that could be movie accurate. His dagger has the same silver finish that of the katanas. Having a hard time focusing it. There you go. And the handle is as basic as it gets. Kind of glossy. Last but not the least, we have his punchy hands. Another observation I have is that the weapon holding hands do have some silver paint on them at the back of each hand. See, that's the gun holding hand, and this is the knife slash katana holding hand. while the relaxed hands and the punchy hands are just plain black. I almost forgot about this. He does come with a unicorn, a stuffed toy unicorn. I don't even know what's the deal with his obsession for unicorns, but he's Deadpool. He's gonna do funny things, and this is one of those. Now let's examine his articulation points and see what he can do. Let's pop off the head first to see what we're looking at. Okay, so that's interesting. This may not be the first time that they've done this, and I may just be unaware because I don't really collect a lot of Marvel Legends figures, but if I'm not mistaken, they normally do double ball pegs if they decided to do a cut on the upper neck and the lower neck. But this time, it is one elongated ball peg, double ball peg, that extends from the upper neck to the lower neck joint. So, not sure what's up with that. But from what I can tell, it's not really affording a lot of range at the lower neck joint. So that's unfortunate, but it should be fine anyway. Okay, now we have his head popped back on. Given the way that they set this up, let's just use a combined articulation for the upper and the lower neck joint. So his head can look down. Not really that much. His head can look a little more than he can look down. One major gripe I have is it's so hollow down here. What's up with that? It's not really giving him a lot of range looking down. I can imagine that it's giving him the same range he would have if they filled that up. So that's a very weird choice to make. We have a hinge on the shoulders, and with that, you can do generous T-pose. No problem there, and it looks good doing it. His arm can go around, no problem. And then the bicep cut looks okay and functions pretty well. Double jointed elbow works and functions pretty well. Ooh, that looks great. He can hold his own bobbage. Ooh. So they gave his arms the perfect amount of mobility to create poses that would be characteristic to him. So I am happy that they did. And one can argue that they should be doing this kind of articulation setup for all their figures, because it would just make all their figures more fun. The abs are the super outdated crunch system. It would have been nice if they used the ball pegs and the horizontal cut instead of this double vertical cut to create an ab crunch, but it's one of those ab crunches that don't look so bad at all, so can't really complain much. And with that said, it can bend forward with great range, no problem. It doesn't make the back look ugly at all, so I can imagine it doesn't look ugly at the front when you bend it backwards. So yeah, it's pretty much all right. Super cool. This guy can jump off a plane and look good doing it. Look at that. His legs can spread out that far. Not really full on splits, but good enough range. He can't really kick that high, sadly. And he's got some nice thigh cuts, which are pretty much hidden by these large holsters. And while there may be some sculpted details such as that line work right there that gets broken up when you utilize that joint, it's fine because it's pretty much subtle anyway. It's part of the whole red right there. So yeah. Oh yeah, these are pretty nice. The pouches here on his right leg has the same amount of detail that's applied on the pouches here on his belt. Then we've got double jointed knees to function well and look good, although it can't really afford him enough range to kick his own ass, but you don't need him to do that. And his knee pads are positioned right in the middle to help produce the broken look of the knees because of the double jointed system. So that's alright. Doesn't have a boot cut, but that's fine. The thigh cut more than suffices. And then his foot can go that far. That's maximal range going back. You don't really need to go beyond that. That's as good as it gets. Going forward, pretty much the same range, or maybe a little hindered because of that guard, the upper foot guard or something. But yeah, still a good amount of range. And then he's got a super functional ankle rocker as well. So, oh yeah, before I forget, he does have shoulder. He does have shoulders, of course. He does have butterfly joints on his shoulders, and that functions pretty well going back. Going forward, good enough range, and you can just, the arms can do the rest. That is amazing. So far, this figure is hitting all the marks to make for a really satisfying action figure. By the way, I almost forgot, he does have a waist twist. Normally, I'm against waist twists because of how ugly the cuts are, but I can make exceptions for characters like him with large belt / pouches, pouched belts. Then his head can move side to side for nuanced posing. So you get all the tilting you need on there. By the way, I do appreciate the accuracy of that head sculpt. Wade. Yes, Wade. That unicorn is so damn cute. Please let me worship it too. This was bequeathed by my father. You mean our father? I don't really have anything to compare him with at the moment other than this outdated but still legendary X-Force Deadpool figure. Still one of my favorites up to this day. So what are my final thoughts on this release? Well, if you missed the train on the first one, then you did yourself a favor. Congratulations, because you didn't fall prey to Hasbro's marketing ploy, which is to pay more for fluff that you don't need. And that fluff being a figure of a character that no one really asked for an action figure of, now that he's a standalone figure with a lot of upgrades, and that is loaded with a lot of sculpted details and some paint where it is necessary. Plus, he's got very good articulation points that do make sense and function well. An overall articulation setup that allows you to put him in poses that are iconic to this character. I'd say go pick him up, given that he is currently sold at a reasonable price. As far as a definitive version of fourth wall breaking, Merc with a mouth movie figure, this is the way to go. On top of all that, you get all the accessories you need and some. So if you're thinking about buying it, go get it as long as you're not paying for more than retail prices. Thanks for watching. Until the next video.